All right, we're moving on to our second day of lesson 3.8, continuing our work with functions. So here we're asked to complete the equation for the mapping diagram. So if you haven't seen a mapping diagram, here's an example of what one looks like. Basically, you have all these values on the left. These values go into your function, and you get back these values over here. So these values are your domain values. The values that you get back are the range. So remember, the domain are your input values, the range, the output values. One way to think about that. Domain will also be the x values, and the range will be the y values. And then another way of representing y in all these functions is in function notation, f of x. So now that we kind of understand what we're looking at, we can see that our function takes some number times x and then adds 2 to it. So we know the x values right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are going in for the x. We're multiplying it by something and then adding 2. So you can do a little guess and check on this. Let's say, and I'm going to focus on when x equals 1, and I can see that we should get back a value of 4. That's coming right here from our mapping diagram. 1 got mapped onto a 4. So let's say we're trying to figure out this value, if that's a 1. So 1 times x, which is 1, plus 2. Does that equal the 4? So 1 times 1 is 1, plus 2, which equals 3. So that tells me that that value cannot be a 1. Again, we're just trying to figure out what this is. So let's try 2. 2 times, and I'm plugging in a 1 for x, adding 2, because I'm just following that function rule right there. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 2 equals 4, which is what we got back. So that one worked out. So now I'm just going to double check and see if some other values worked. So the function is f of x equals something times x plus 2. So let me try when we think that 2 works. That's what we were trying to figure out. So let's try 2 times 2 for our x. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, and I'm checking up here and I can see that the 6 is the value. Now we're going to try a 3. 2 times 3 plus 2. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8, and let's check our mapping diagram and we can see that if we use 3 for x, we get back an 8. So what number gets filled into our function rule right there that we just figured out? That is going to be a 2. So the function is f of x equals 2x plus 2. Alright, so we're going to do some focusing on the domain in this section. Remember, the domain is all your real numbers for x except those that produce undefined values. We actually have not talked about this yet. So some things to look out for. Fractions. Fractions can produce undefined values because you cannot divide by 0. So we will make sure that we are never dividing by 0 in our functions. Another thing you want to look out for are radicals. Those are your square roots. And recall that you can't take the square root of a negative number. So that's something else that we're going to look out for when we want to avoid those undefined values, fractions and radicals. Alright, so going back to the 60s for your Name That Tune today. I feel like you probably will recognize it, but you might not know who it is, so let me know what you think.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. somebody to help me say it one time.